Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having an incredible day out in your garden. Whatever it might be that you're doing on this fine day, I sure hope it is swell because time in the garden better be time well spent. In today's video, we're going to be giving our onions a quick little haircut in this simple, very straight to the point video on why we do this to our onions at this point. Here we've got our seed starting tray, which we've got our onions in. We have bunching onions, we've got red weather shield onions, and we've also got white Spanish onions here in this tray. We've got 4 different layers in all, and now I would say they're a little bit past their time in which we would want to give them a haircut, but you know, they're gonna do just fine as it's about time to put them out in the garden, maybe about in the next week. They certainly could go out right now, but I just want them a little bit more developed before I break them apart and divide them up in the garden area. You might be sitting at home, you've got your onions growing, they've got this single leaf thing growing up. It's not really a stem, it's not really a leaf. Well, what it's actually called is a modified leaf. So this leaf here, this single cylindrical green thing coming up out of the ground, that is the foliage of your onion, this modified leaf is going to be what forms all of the layers of your onion. So the more leaves that develop, the more layers or rings that are developed around your onion, therefore the bigger it's going to get. So the more of these things that we can push out, the better it's going to be. We're not going to talk about pruning and cutting your onions later on in the season when they're big, because that's a whole nother story in my opinion, but we're going to talk about cutting them when they're nice and small. So with this modified leaf, there's a couple of reasons why we cut them, but the biggest single reason as to why we do this is because there's not a whole lot of strength in these tiny little tendrils here, you know. They might start to tip over, lean over, and fall off to the side. And we don't want growth that is leaning over. We want nice, upright, and strong growth. And also, at this point in their life, if we don't cut them, they could also bend and pinch off basically all of the nutrients that could be flowing into the plant. If you imagine like a garden hose, you know, pinching this modified leaf is going to give us that same result. It's going to stop the flow of nutrients. It's going to stop everything that the plant needs to continue to grow and to thrive in your garden. So that's why we cut them off. We just give them a nice little haircut, not too far, but just enough to where the plant's more able to support itself. And then it's also going to direct more growth into the new rings or the new modified leaves that are coming up out of the ground. Now, will your onions do okay if you don't do this? Yes, they will be okay in most cases. But you can also run into a lot of issues if you don't do anything with them. And something like this is so simple and easy to do. I just don't really find a reason not to do it if you have the time at least. Again, like I say on this channel all the time, do not stress over something like this. Don't let it bother you. But just a quick haircut can give your onions a nice little boost, especially one that's going to help them thrive later on in the season, you know, the early stages of their lives. This is a lot more important than later on when they're nice and strong. So to take this cutting and to give them a nice little haircut, it's really easy. So we're just going to take and basically we're going to go about 3 inches below the top of this onion that is growing. So if we've got an onion plant right here, let me try and fold these over on this side so we got one nice row. We've got all in all maybe about 4 inches, 4.5 inches right here on these onions. So I'm going to cut almost 2 inches off of it, just about 1.5 inches. We don't want to go too far. So right here, I'll show you this little bit. These onion tops right here, that's all I cut off of a plant. Before I do the whole thing, I'm going to show you a nice close-up before. This is what they look like before. So nice, really long, good growth. I mean, very healthy onions so far, but they're starting to tip over. All right, so we're just going to keep going along this row here. I am a professional, I don't know what you call it, cosmetologist at this point. So good. Cut these off, put those off to the side so we can use them in the kitchen later on today. So I guess I would say that you want to cut off about 1/3 of your onion. You certainly can do less or more. If you take your cuttings and you find that they're still tipping over, then go ahead and cut a little bit more off of them. They won't get any harm from this. They're very forgiving. They are very hardy. And, onions will just continue to grow after a pretty thick pruning as well. So just like that, we've gone through and almost got all of them. A couple of other long ones yet. We want to make sure to get as many as we can so that we don't accidentally have any die due to them folding over and getting pinched off, like we talked about earlier. And there, I think we've got it. So this is what they look like now. So you can tell now the rows are sticking almost straight up. They're nice and sturdy. You can wiggle it around and everything. They're not falling over. They're not even close to getting pinched off. So I will have nice, happy, healthy onion seedlings from this point on, up to the point where we divide them up and plant them out in the garden. So that is really all it takes to prune your onions and to give them a nice little haircut, which is going to give the final little boost that they need before they go out in the garden. So I hope you implement this in your seed starting regimen this year or next year, whatever year it might be. Happy gardening, and I hope you the most success as possible. Blessings to you all, and we'll see you in the next episode.